Hey guys, Youngblood with you for the 61st episode of the Inbox, starting off with a question from SimDay8 saying, Hey STL, do you think we would be able to go to our hangar and take a ship out and begin to fly away? That's something that's on the roadmap, and it's something Sean Tracy talked about in the happy hour stream, and it's something that they're actually working on happening. So yes, it is something that we're going to be able to get, and I think it's something that's widely anticipated. Now the question really becomes, what's the timeline on that happening? But we absolutely will be able to do that. Once you actually can leave your hangar and start, flying out, you're probably going to be in some sort of flight pattern where you have some level of, a path that you need to take to get out to space. But it is something that's planned and something that is going to be coming. Cylon HD says, what do you think of the Freelancer Dragonfly combo as sort of an Aquila Lite? I've heard on Reddit that the Freelancer won't be able to fit through the small jump points anymore. Are you hearing that as well? Great videos. Thanks for all the info. You are very welcome. I think the Freelancer Dragonfly combo is a really nice option. I think it gives you a lot of flexibility, whether you want to go exploring in some tight areas in space where the can't go, you could take the Dragonfly in there. If you land on a planet, the Dragonfly can also work on the planet. The flexibility of the Dragonfly is its real appeal in my mind. And the ability to fit in the back of a Freelancer is just an added perk. Having the Dragonfly in there is going to mean that you're not able to carry as much cargo when you're coming back, but as far as just being an Aquila Lite, I think it's a really, really nice option just because it's going to give you, the range, it's going to give you the solo ability. I envision a Freelancer as a ship that you can fly effectively by yourself and explore effectively by yourself, probably better with two people, but something like an Aquila, for example, is going to really take 3 to 4 to be really successful. Now you could use NPCs in that role, but I think the Dragonfly combo that you're talking about is a winning idea. Now, as far as the Freelancer not being able to fit through the small jump points anymore, I haven't heard that. I have heard the devs kind of bouncing back and forth, so I don't think we've got it confirmed that it's going to fit through the smallest jump points. But I think the Freelancer line has to go through the smallest jump points. Otherwise, it's just going to end up kind of being outclassed in a couple different ways, especially when you start talking about the Freelancer Max versus the Constellation Taurus. One of the selling points of the Max, which is only $10 cheaper, is that it should be able to fit through the smallest jump points, meaning it's more efficient, it can get places faster, those types of things. So my hunch is that it's going to end up fitting through the small jump points just because from a gameplay perspective, it makes a lot of sense, and the Freelancers aren't really all that big. Ivan says, hey Youngblood, when do you think we're going to see some Xi'an or Tevarin concept art or even finished ships? Vanduul are cool and all, but the diversity these ships offer is what I'm really curious about. I think we're going to see more Xi'an stuff coming pretty soon, especially if we're going to end up having interactions in Squadron 42 with them. That's the driver right now, and that's why you're seeing so much Vanduul stuff, is because they're the primary antagonist in the game. So when you're talking about the campaign, they have to go through and produce all these Vanduul ships. As far as the Xi'an go, we may not have any interaction with them in the first chapter of Squadron 42, and if that's the case, they don't really need to develop anything at this point. So I think it's definitely going to be coming. We're going to have interactions with the Xi'an Empire, so there's going to be more ships coming, and hopefully we at least see concept on those fairly soon, but I wouldn't hold your breath until they're further along in the development with Squadron 42. Now, as far as the Tevarin concept art goes, the only Tevarin ship that we have today is the boarding craft recreated by Asperia. So when you consider what the history of the Tevarin actually is they were basically eradicated by the UEE. Now, there's still some of those people alive. I think there's even a Tevarin senator, in the lore, but they're not necessarily going to be producing new ships. Their real interaction with the universe is going to be kind of with the humans and kind of with the other races. So I kind of envision the Tevarin being a culture that's actually adopting technology from other cultures as opposed to developing their own, because they probably don't have the infrastructure to do that effectively on their own at this point. Now, there may be other ancient ships that we end up seeing down the line, but I would say that's really low priority because there's a lore reason that you can explain it away. But as they're getting through and everything's developed and they're just wanting to put new content out, then maybe we see Asperia kind of bringing back another relic. Hornet F18 says, will we be able to change parts like coolers on the glaive in the future? I haven't seen anything specifically mentioned from the developers, but I have absolutely no reason to believe that wouldn't be the case. I expect that different components are going to be expensive, like everything that is Asperia or captured Vanduul. I think a cooler on a glaive is going to cost more than a cooler on a 300i. But yeah, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to swap out components in the future. Scorch says, what about the self-destruct option? If someone is going to board your ship with a superior force, why wouldn't the crew just decide to self-destruct? I can think of a lot of reasons here. I know some people talk about doing this to kind of, foil the pirates that are trying to get on board and steal their stuff. And it's a good idea in theory, but I think there's some deterrents that are in place. One, you always have a chance of winning. And, if you're the defenders, you've got an upper hand. So, for example, if you see that you've got 4 or 5 people that are trying to board your ship, and there's only one really good access place into your ship, you can kind of set up a defense there, to try and keep people away. It's not necessarily going to be just because you have 3 people and they have 5 people, they're going to win. They have to have superior numbers in order to take over your ship. Now, the other things I think we can look at is going to be you lose your cargo. So you blow that up, you lose your cargo, you lose your ship, you lose your life. There's a lot of loss there. We start talking about, permadeath, for example. If you die a certain amount of times, you're going to end up having to go to your next character, something like that. That's not a real appealing to a lot of people. They want death to count. So the fighting back is in your best interest. Or negotiating. That's always another option, too. If you want to come on board, you can even have my ship if you just drop me off somewhere. I don't want to die, and I'm going to get an insurance replacement anyways, so just help me out. Don't kill me. I'll cooperate. Something like that could be effective too. Now, you're kind of encouraging piracy if you go that route, but it is an option, and that's some of the fun in having those options available to you. There could be other consequences. Maybe all of a sudden your insurance price goes up to insure your ships if you're someone who just frequently self-destructs. If the insurance company can get the ship logs and find out that you're someone that blows your ship up whenever you're in, facing, death, they're probably going to say, all right, your premiums are going up because you're a risk to insure. So I think there's a lot of factors there. You probably take on less jobs if you're a lot successful in actually delivering. So I think there's going to be enough consequences where you don't want to use the self-destruct option, but it is just that. It is an option, and we'll just have to see what those consequences are. Redbeard says, hey, STLYoungblood, love your videos. Thank you. Now, Redbeard's got a long question, so we're going to try and break this down into pieces. Just got into the game last week. I bought a Cutlass Black with the intention of getting a blue when it comes for sale again. My intention was to do bounty hunting with it and some pirate smuggling. However, after watching a bunch of your videos, I don't know about pirating anymore. I might do smuggling, but I have a Freelancer Max for cargo, so I doubt it. Just to kind of stop there, the Freelancer Max should be an excellent smuggling ship. I think it's going to be able to carry enough legitimate cargo where you're probably able to kind of sneak in some contraband as well. But I think the Cutlass Blue would do a good job with that, especially since it looks like a police and militia vehicle. If you're using it for other purposes, I think people aren't necessarily going to be looking at it as like, oh, there's definitely contraband on that ship. The more I think about the ship now, it will only work as a bounty hunter, which is fine, but I'm curious about converting it to be more like a red at times for use in battle or in aftermath in order to rescue people. Don't look at it as just a bounty hunter. It certainly can do that. It's got the holding cells, but you can yank the cells out and do different things with it. I think it fits interesting needs as far as like a gunboat, a heavy fighter, a support, an escort support ship, a bounty hunter. There's, I think, a lot of things that kind of circle around combat that I think the Cutlass Blue will do well, and I think piracy fits into that as well. From what I've heard you say, it seems that modularity is possible. It is. I'm curious of what you think about that, having a heavily armored ambulance, and how insurance would work with that modularity. If my blue is insured, but I swap the interior for med beds and get taken out while in battle, would I have to rebuy all the beds, or does insurance cover both modules? Which leads me to just, should I go with a red? Okay, so the modularity on the Cutlasses is something that I think is going to draw a lot of attention and something that a lot of people are going to enjoy having. I know I'm personally looking forward to that as well. We know you can rip out the holding cells in the blue, and presumably you should be able to put in the med stations or, cargo netting or, tractor beams or whatever you want to do. You should have the ability to customize the interior of the ship the way you want to. Now, the way insurance work is what you have on your ship today, 6 months, 12 month, 24 month LTI, whatever that is whole insurance. So whatever your ship is in your hangar today is what's insured. So if you go out there and upgrade guns or avionics, or you swap out you add in med bays to your Cutlass Blue, those are things that aren't covered by your basic hull insurance. So if your ship gets destroyed, you get your basic Cutlass Blue back, not your upgrades. That being said, you should be able to, in-game, be able to actually insure individual components. So if you want to have this heavily armed ambulance, and that's something you want to use on a regular basis, if you buy those med bays, then I would encourage you to just go ahead and insure those med bays. So then if you do get destroyed, you get everything back. So those are the types of options you're going to have with insurance and should help you with that modularity and upgrades. You just need to be cognizant of what decisions you're making in the first. And our last two questions are Patreon questions, starting off with Sarah, saying George Lucas wanted Star Wars to have a lived-in aesthetic, which is why there was little to no shiny ships. Will Star Citizen have the same feel for many parts of the universe? Yeah, it should. We already know that ships are going to go through wear and tear. We see some of those in ships today, like the Cutlass, the Caterpillar, the Constellation Taurus. Some of the ships don't look like they just rolled off the factory line, and CIG did that to kind of demonstrate some of the art that they're working on as far as making ships feel lived in. I think we're going to see that in different parts of the verse as well. Like around Terra Prime, you've probably got people that are taking care of their ships better out, in like Magnus out by like Spider or something like that. People probably don't care about the aesthetic of their ship as much. So I think you're going to see that. It's probably going to be a little bit of indicative of the type of, part of town that you're in. But that doesn't mean you're not going to have some player pirate that has some pimped out, super clean, Cutlass that wants to kind of come and kill you. It's not always going to be indicative of that. But I think you're going to see some of that, not only just with players and not keeping up with the wear and tear on their ships, but also with the area of space that you're in. That's kind of a little bit of speculation, but I think it makes a lot of sense and kind of seems to be the level of immersion that CIG is going for. And the last question is for Clem Morale, similar to our first question we had today. Reflecting on Sean Tracy's info dump on Happy Hour January 20th, what are the chances of getting to open your hangar door in 2017, and how much are you looking forward to that experience? I would say the chances are relatively good. I think that the technology is going to be in line with what's happening in 3.0. So we know we're going to get 3.0, or we know we're going to get 3.0 some point in 2017. So I think the chances are relatively high. I don't think that's coming with 3.0, but I think that means the technology to make that happen is happening, is kind of being developed now. As far as how much I'm looking forward to that experience, I think it's going to be awesome. Today it's like you jump into a virtual simulator, or you end up taking this random space elevator to, Port Alizar. It's not like it's like a deal breaker for playing the game, but it isn't real immersive. So having the ability to just walk into your hangar, get into your ship, hit the garage clicker, it opens your door, you fly out, you go up, you leave the atmosphere, you head into space, and then you're out in the Crusader system. That's awesome, and I can't wait for that, because I think that's going to be the first real taste of, oh my god, we've made it. That I'm going to space from the planet, or I'm going from the planet down to space. Those are the types of things that I think are going to really kind of bring it all together and give everybody that feel that they're looking for. And I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to that. So that wraps up this episode of The Inbox. If you guys have questions, please get them in. Otherwise, stay tuned for more soon, and have a wonderful day. Take care.